Let's talk about a moment where Cyclops and Cable aren't just teammates, but get to be father and son. This story begins when Cable is just coming off the loss of his most recent battle with Apocalypse. Himself and 11 other mutants have been trapped by Apocalypse, a group that will historically become known as the 12. Tells the rest of them that their defeat marks the beginning of Armageddon and Apocalypse's reign. But mysteriously, Scott and Nathan begin getting pulled away from the time stream. We see Cyclops waking up with a pounding headache in this desolate future, and he immediately goes to look for the X-Men. But instead, only finds his son. When Scott wants to know where exactly they are, Cable tells him that they're home, that they're in his future. This is where everyone he has ever known is buried. All of them had all fought so valiantly to try and rid the world of Apocalypse's reign, and he thought by going back he could erase all of this pain. But he failed them. His mission was to go back and to stop Apocalypse's reign before it ever began. See him screaming in pain because Apocalypse still lives. Scott tries to comfort him and tell him that he can't possibly blame himself for all of these graves. Scott can't help but think to himself how he's never seen Cable like this, so distraught and tormented. He's been a pillar of strength and confidence, and even if Nathan wasn't his son, to see him like this would break anyone's heart. Then something even stranger happens. Scott gets to see his son as he's never seen him before, as a young man, but holding the body of his dead wife. Nathan begins to tell his dad about his wife, about how much he loved her and how he would have done anything in this world to save her, but she died on the battlefield too. He tells his father all about the daughter-in-law that he will never get the chance to meet, and tells him how much that she reminds him of Jean. Even in the darkest of times, she's a light for everyone around her, and he knows that Scott would have loved her. Then things get even stranger when Scott sees Cable as a young kid. Nathan asks Scott if he ever thinks about his parents, and Scott tells him yes, of course, that he lost them at a young age, much like Nathan did. He used to stare at the stars and imagine his parents' faces in the constellations, never dreaming that they were actually up there. Now, if you didn't know, for a brief amount of time, Scott and Jean actually got to go to the future and raise young Nathan for a little bit, but then Nathan reveals something else to Scott. He tells his dad that after him and Jean disappeared, every night he would find some place that he could be alone, someplace quiet where he would light a candle to honor them and their memory. They were the only family he ever knew, and by doing this, he could imagine that they were still with him, but Scott assures his son that no matter what, they were always with him. A single day didn't go by that they didn't think about him or miss him, and they would have done anything to be at his side. Cable tells him what's done is done. They can't change any of it, and ironically enough, he doesn't like dwelling in the past. His whole life has been about the past, and right now, at least with his dad, he'd like to live in the present for a little bit. Scott tells him that that's not the only irony, that the whole world might be on the brink of extinction, but in this very moment, he's content. He tells Nathan, it's all because I'm here with you. It's a shame that it takes us being faced with our own mortality to open up and tell each other how we really feel. But Cable assures him that he doesn't need to explain himself, that if anyone understands that, it's him. Cable then asks Scott for one favor, that when he's gone, when all this is over, that he doesn't see the man that's standing before him right now. Scarred and battered by a lifetime of struggle, no, he wants his dad to remember him as the man that he had hoped he'd be. Wrapping his son up in a hug, he tells him, Nathan, don't you know, you are exactly the man that I hoped you'd become.